plan for different goal-based investing as well. And two of that will be covered on the show today. So Winnie, take it away.
Absolutely. So today what we're going to be discussing is every time we talk about the corpus that is created for retirement, right? Let's talk beyond that as well. You create your corpus, but how do you plan it through your retirement time as well? You have a couple of decades, more than that as well. How do you plan it? How do you look at your investment strategy to move, inflation comes in, that keeps going higher. There are expenses, health expenses, other education costs maybe that could come in as well. So how do you save your corpus from shrinking? What should your strategy be as well? So we're going to be talking about all of that in today's session as well. And obviously we have our experts who are joining us on the show today. We have Prableen Vajpayee, founder of Finfex Research and Analytics, as well as Mrin Agarwal, who is joining us as a financial educator and director at FinSafe as well. Mrin as well as Prableen, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. Let me start with you, Mrin. Most people, always obsess over building the corpus. We talk about the amount coming in till the corpus. But on the actual day, when you start seeing that retirement coming in, what is the first decision that you would say one has to make with this sort of investment that you have, a goal-based investment? So how do you go about it after your corpus is ready?
So good afternoon, Sonal and Winnie, and it's lovely to be here today. Well, yes, it's quite a momentous occasion for most people. And, typically what is normally seen is that you'll get a lump sum from the Employee Provident Fund for the salaried people and, possibly some other amounts. Now, what typically happens is that people tend to say that, okay, let's say my expenses is 1 lakh rupees per month into 12. So I need 12 lakhs. But, the most important thing that they don't do is actually taking into account the inflation, right? And that is very, very important. So, I just give you a small example. So typically what we do is that we give you like a cash flow calculator, which basically helps you figure out how long your corpus is going to last. And I think it's very, very important for most people to first figure this piece out, that the corpus that they have, the incomes that they have coming in through retirement, like, for example, you might have rental income that might be coming in, you might be having pension coming in from somewhere. So some amount of, superannuation, for example, if you have a pension due to that. So some amount of regular income that is basically coming in, you need to take all of that into account, but very, very important to inflation adjusted. So just to give you an idea. So for example, let us say that somebody retires with a 3 crores corpus and they want to withdraw 1 lakh rupees per month, right? And I've kept it simple, no other income coming in basically. Now this corpus will only last 20 years, right? On an inflation adjusted basis. But actually, if you had worked it out without taking into account inflation, you would have seen that this corpus will last you 25, 26 years. So I think, the first thing that anybody should be doing as they're nearing retirement, or, if they are in retirement, of course, I'm sure by then you figured out where you're going to stay and all of those things. But firstly, based on your assessment of regular expenses, figure out, how long your corpus is going to last. And then secondly, of course, you have to figure out, where you're going to invest this amount in order to be able to get that monthly return. And by the way, the calculation that I had given you was assuming only 6% return on investment, right? So I think, the first thing is to figure out how long this corpus is going to basically last based on your monthly expenses. Also, I think another factor that you actually just brought it up in your question is to really think about how much you want to spend on family, family matters.
Okay, take that point. So big numbers that we keep talking about. Prableen, let me come to you now, because we often hear the number 5 crores, 10 crores. They're actually thrown around as retirement targets. But is a corpus number even the right way to think about retirement planning?
Absolutely, Sonal. We recently heard about 40 crores as well. So definitely big numbers around. And to be quite honest, yes, it is a reality that retirement corpus numbers are definitely going into crores. It's no more in lakhs, and that too higher digits in crores, Sonal. So let's just dissect how we get to this number first. So there are a lot of variables when we are calculating, and we're also working on a lot of assumptions, Sonal. That is one problem, because Today, we know for certain that, this is the taxation, this is the interest rate, this is what we are getting. But when we are planning for retirement, and retirement is a very longish period, it can run into 3 to 4 decades. We are totally unsure of, what taxation, interest rates, what circumstances would be. So definitely, basis the inputs that we have, we work on numbers. And to give you a simple example, like Prin said, like with a monthly expense of 1 lakh, Sonal, today, let's say if somebody is 45 and needs to retire by 60, this 1 lakh expense after 15 years would become roughly 2.4 lakh a month. And of course, it keeps increasing during retirement. That is the problem, that the person retires at 60, this is 2.4. And by the time the person is 70, it further goes up. So that number will be almost double of that. To be able to manage retirement during this longish time period, let's say we assume 90 as your lifespan, a corpus of about 8.6 CR in this case would be required. And so the numbers are very crucial because they give us a broader guidance as to what needs to be achieved. And of course, then, for example, in this, a monthly SIP as on date, if somebody is 45, a monthly SIP of 1,70,000 would need to be done to achieve it if no other instruments are there. And once, Sonal, you get there, let's say you're closer to your goal, or if you were not able to reach the goal, let's say somebody is just able to make about 6 crores instead of this 8.6. Then we figure out, how do we manage the different buckets are created at the time of retirement, because that transition from work life into retirement, it's not that your expenses are going to shrink overnight. So that transition needs to be smooth. So roughly, catering to 2 to 3 years of expenses, which requires that, proper cash flow management, that there is no volatility, that monthly income is coming for you now through a systematic withdrawal or through interest payments. Beyond that, that corpus needs to be deployed in a way that we are still able to combat inflation and manage the increased expenses even during retirement, because it's only the nature of the expenses would change. Maybe you're traveling more during your early retirement and it would be more of life care during your later years of retirement. But Sonal, expenses is one of the biggest certainties of life, I think, as on date. And that is why definitely these big numbers need to be taken seriously, but each to his own. So this number would be different for everybody. A tier 2, 3 person, somebody who's sitting in these cities, their corpus maybe just about 2 crores would also be sufficient. So it really depends on case to case basis. And I think that is why personal, finance is all about taking into account your situation and then working out a solution.
Okay, absolutely point taken there, Prableen. Thanks so much for that. I had just heard that 1.7 lakh investment SIP that you need to make if you're 45 and you need that 8.6 crore corpus. But thanks for that. Madan, coming to you now, other than that, when you're going to move on in age at retirement side as well, healthcare inflation, that's also a concern. You need to plan for that as well. So on the financial planning side, how should retirees actually specifically plan for this medical cost as well, right? Or an inflation that comes in around 10-12% for health inflation. So how do you plan on that front?
So there are a couple of things that you can do. So firstly, if you are a salaried employee and you have cover from the organization, you should certainly look at porting that policy. Typically, that process, I think, starts 45 days in advance. So, you should certainly do that, because what happens when you port the policy is that all the waiting periods and everything gets taken into account, so it doesn't get reset, right? So that's a big advantage. Typically, also, you'll see that the group covers have better terms and stuff like that. So that's point number one. Of course, we all know that today, anybody in this age group would need at least 25 to 30 lakhs cover, given the cost of treating large illnesses and, of course, the medical inflation of 12 to 14%. So I think another thing that one can do is to take super top-up covers. They're incredibly cheap because there is a co-payment angle. So a good way to do this is that when you port, let's say you have a policy that you've ported, you can use that as the base cover and take a super top-up from the same health insurance company, because that works out much, much cheaper. Even for people in 60s, for example, it doesn't work out that expensive. Of course, these days you also have unlimited covers that are available, but you'll have to check what's going to be the premium like given the age, right? Above all, I've always believed that, it's important to have a health savings fund, which is just a small amount that you're allocating towards. It could be any large expense, honestly. I would say it's different from the emergency fund. It's like a life happens sort of a fund, right? Where, you're just allocating some amount, or at least what I'm saying is that, part of your investments, you do need to have some amount where you say that, look, if I have a large emergency, then, I should be able to pull out this amount, right? So you could call it health savings fund, you could call it whatever it is, but allocate one investment in your portfolio towards this purpose as well, because again, within all the health insurance policies, we read a lot about all the restrictions, and people getting huge bills because a lot of things don't get covered in their policies.
Right, and health insurance is a different topic altogether. That's a big part of finances, but that is not something we'll discuss in the show, but it's a big talking point when it comes to planning your investments as well. Very interesting discussion, but we have to take a quick break. On the other side, we'll continue our discussion, also talk about some common investing mistakes that we make, investing in too many mutual funds, understand more dynamics of this one with the same guests. Welcome back. You're still tuned into MF Corner. Let's try and understand at what point does a portfolio stop being diversified and starts being diluted. Still have with us Prableen Bajpai, who's the founder of FinFix Research and Analytics, and Rin Agrawal, who's the financial educator and director at FinSave India, to understand the fine line between a perfect portfolio spread and just a clutter. Prableen, let me start with you. Just a simple one, because many people, fail to understand this. How many funds are too many? Is there actually a number, or does it depend on the investor?
Actually, there's no standard number, Sonal, over there, but definitely you want your portfolio to be easily manageable. And, a single digit, I think, works best for everyone. So you're restricting yourself to under 10. broadly across goals. So you have some gold, you can have some debt as well, you can have equity funds. So I think till the time you are below 10, you are okay. An ideal portfolio, honestly, for a goal like retirement can be managed in roughly 5 to 6 equity schemes. And of course, then how you want to cater to other goals, that would depend. Do you want to use the same schemes? Do you want to add something separate? Every investor would definitely have a different view on it. But I think that's a safe number to go with. Overall, definitely, if you're looking at your portfolio and if you just sort of, try to streamline that, these are the schemes I have and these are the categories I have. And if you're seeing that, you have, let's say, 4 large cap funds, 5 flexi cap funds, or 2 small cap funds, that is the point where you need to rethink that am I actually diversifying, or is it, resulting in what they call diversification. So it should not be, worsening your portfolio, because monitoring becomes difficult, Sonal. And, I think the performers which are actually able to add to your portfolio get a lower weightage. At the same time, it's very, very hard to then start making the calls as to what should be exited. There is tax implications. So I think once you're nearing that, double-digit number, it should be a warning sign that, you should go and check what wrong you're doing with your portfolio in terms of adding more schemes.
Absolutely, Prableen. Point taken there. No diversification. Diversifying is fine, but no diversification. But that's my next question, right? Mrin, is there a case where, maybe if someone is over invested or has too many mutual funds, that can actually reduce your returns rather than protecting you?
Oh, yes, absolutely. It does actually do that always, that it reduces your return. Prableen also pointed out that, the allocation that you have to your performing investments basically drops. And, what basically happens is that you are basically holding you're holding funds with the same stocks, right? So there is a huge amount of overlap. Also, there's this very nice data that I came across that when you look at the overlap of stocks in categories, for example, in the large cap category, you have schemes which have 44% overlap. That's the average overlap in the stocks. So I think what is really important is that you don't want to be stuck with the same type of schemes. I mean, we've all talked about diversification, but diversification among large, mid, and small cap, right? So you want to have a good, a good blend of all of these styles, market caps, and stuff like that. And one of the other reasons also why you could look at a drop in returns because of having too many funds is because it's so difficult to monitor it, right? And to figure out what to hold, what not to hold. It's very difficult for the lay investor to really do that. Again, the whole piece on trend chasing, which we always see that people are always chasing the recently well-performing funds, that those behaviors also come into place. So net, when you also look at the data, it actually shows that holding more than 2 to 3 funds in a specific category actually does not improve your investment returns.
Okay, all right. Prableen, if, say, a viewer of ours is sitting on a portfolio of 20 plus funds right now, what are the steps, the process to rationalize it? And there are tax implications of switching as well, right? So what do you suggest, and how do they figure out their overlap that they have in their portfolio?
Right. So, Sonal, I think first step, open your Excel sheet, write down all the schemes that you have, create another column with the category. So you know that this is the number of schemes that, I'm holding from category A, category B, category C. Once you have that, I think also very important there is to write the percentage allocation. So let's say, are you holding 10% in a flexi cap fund? You may have 2 other flexi cap funds, let's say, where you just hold about 1% and 2%. So percentage allocations, writing that down is equally important. So once you have this data, broader data with you, then of course, a bit of hard work there in the sense that you need to check that, let's say, I'm holding 3 flexi caps. What is my allocation? Maybe you have a huge allocation, let's say 10% to a flexi cap. And you do have a goal, let's say, which is 3 years away, then Sonal, I would recommend, even if it's not the best performing flexi cap, maybe, you can postpone exiting that, because that particular goals, let's say, are 10 years away. Then I think undertaking a bit of tax implication, paying tax, it's okay. And then you can decide that out of these three flexi caps, I'm going to continue with the better one, maybe which has a lower allocation, even at the cost of paying some taxes. But overall, I think the first step for any investor should be that try and avoid having more than one fund from the same category. Even if you want more than one fund, maybe then for a long-term portfolio, it should be a combination of an active and passive approach. Or you're very sure about the different fund house approaches, then probably you can add two funds if you want to continue, which has, let's say, a growth style and a value style. But I think for a layperson, Sonal, just writing down this basic details and trying to exit funds which are underperforming, have a very low allocation, can be a good starting point. And I think they can definitely come down, reduce the number of funds in their portfolio.
Okay, point taken there. So, Prableen, you're saying that if one fund in one type of portfolio, right? Like if you have in your one portfolio, like flexi cap, one flexi cap fund is what would be ideal to hold, and then large cap fund or whatever they want to invest in. So one of each category that one could go about.
Yes. So broader structure should ideally have, let's say, one large cap, one mid cap. You can have one multi cap or a flexi cap, depending on the goal. You should also have some allocation to gold, maybe a 5% allocation overall. Do you need, let's say, a contra or a value style of investing? So these are the broader 4-5 categories, I think, which should be there as part of your portfolio. And I strongly recommend that for any portfolio which is for long term, let's say 7 years and above, it should also be a mix of active and passive strategies. So I think, large cap and mid cap can be passive, remaining can be active. Of course, gold would be passive. So you have to work on a broader structure and then accordingly start reducing your duplication in the portfolio.
Okay, so that can be done to avoid any overlaps. Mrin, what does an ideal clean portfolio actually look like? How many funds, which categories, for what kind of investor? I know it's very specific to investors, but if we take into account the risk parameters for an investor, how would you bucket it?
So maybe I'll just talk about an equity portfolio. Of course, you go in for debt if you have shorter term time frames. But let's say here's an investor who has a goal of, who has goals which are more than 7 to 10 years away, can take some amount of risk. So again, very important to be diversified on the style of investing, the market cap that you are basically choosing again. So we have a good allocation between a Nifty 50 index fund, a flexi cap fund, a mid cap fund, and a small cap fund. I think 4 to 5 funds is all that you need. In terms of the allocation, you would vary the allocation based on the risk that you can take. So if you can take higher risk, of course, higher allocation to mid caps and small caps funds. And again, I also believe you really don't need more than 1 to 2 funds, ideally one fund. Honestly, keeping the portfolio really simple is important. The last point that I would like to make, because I see a lot of portfolios where people have chosen, 2 funds from the same fund house. So I also believe that you should have a good diversification within the fund houses, because each of them have a different style of management. So you wouldn't want to have mid cap and small cap from the same fund house, even if the overlap is not there. I would say so style, market cap and fund house diversification.
Okay. Style, market cap and fund house diversification. Maybe investing in one category of each funds. That's the roundup that I have as well. Don't go into double digits in different mutual funds as well. Prableen as well as Mrin, thank you so much for joining us on the show, explaining us firstly about the retirement funds, how you should be planning in terms of corpus and beyond that as well. And also taking us through in terms for how we should be decluttering maybe a portfolio in a wiser way, better way. What is the right strategy to go about that as well. Mrin as well as Prableen, thank you so much for joining us. And viewers, thank you so much for joining in and tuning in as always as well. Sonal and myself will take your leave. Thank you so much for that. But the last hour of trade is still left and you have closing bell up next for that.